many years, which still impacts our lives and those of many. Claudette Rivers King. We ask you to open our hearts of praise and thanksgiving for bringing her into fellowship of service and praise. And at that time, our great school of social work continuing as it does now to impact lives and communities. I recall Psalm 23 as we come together. David wrote this psalm from personal experience because he too was a shepherd. And since this psalm is so familiar, oh God, sometimes we're in danger of missing the depth of its meaning. And because its setting is in the world of sheep and shepherds, many of us can slide, oh God, past this richness. Claudia knew that she received God's lavish care all her life. God provided her so well for her that she lacked very few. Claudette was satisfied. But all of this is because she knew the Lord. She called the Lord her shepherd. I don't need a thing. You bedded me down in lush meadows. You find me quiet pools to drink from. True to your word, you let me catch my breath and send me in the right direction, even when my way goes through Death Valley. I'm not afraid when you walk at my side. Your shepherd, your trusted shepherd's crook makes me feel secure. You served me a 6-course dinner right in front of my enemies. You revive my drooping head. My cup brims with blessing. Your beauty and love chase after me every day of my life. And I'm back home in the house of God for the rest of my life with you. We pray in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit of the church. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Easley. But you may not have known this, but Mrs. King's mother is still with us. She is 105 years old, and unfortunately she was unable to make this journey, but her family is here with us today, her family and friends from Dalton. And so I'd like to recognize them if they would just, they stand so we can give them our praise and send our love back to Mrs. Rivers King's mother. At this time, we will follow the program and we will have a selection by Mr. Cedric Miller, class of 2004. Mr. Miller.
In time
Mr. Miller always touches our soul with his songs. At this time, we will ask former students to come forward. We have Dr. Benjamin Downs, class of 95, Dr. Karen Starks, class of 99, Dr. Clinton Dodd, twice alum, 69 and 91. Thank you.
Like something happened to me. Well, I'm not saying 3 minutes. How y'all doing first of all? Got here early. I was here before it was time to begin, but I had to leave them feet hurt and go put on low cut shoes, man. I had to. I wanted to be up here and be comfortable, so I'm comfortable. Let me tell y'all about Miss King. Miss King was a very loving person, very professional. One of the things you could take your dissertation or your thesis to Miss King is you could give it to her and she'd look at it real quick and tell you it's wrong. This ain't right, the margin's not right. This not right, we need to get this done. But she wanted to make sure you got it right before they send it over. So you wouldn't have to do a lot of rewrites. Miss King, back then, we had to write the thesis. We didn't have conceptual papers. So, in my opinion, it was a little bit more rigorous. But regardless of whatever the task was, she was up to it. She was a stickler for protocol. If it's graduation time and you're not dressed right, she's gonna let you know, but she's gonna let you know in a loving way. You know, she'll let you know in a loving way, we gotta get you right, and she'll help you get right so you can go ahead and be there for your family. She coordinated things. One of the things I used to love is holiday season. Holiday season, she gonna make sure we eat like kings. Right? She coordinated all of the meals, made sure everybody had to bring what they needed to bring, and we were family. And it just felt like family. There was something about Miss King that drew you to her, and made you feel like family. Then, you know, as social workers, we came to Clark County University to be saviors of the world. That's what we want to do. Everybody that comes through here wants to be a savior. Everybody that came through here, I'm gonna say most of us, we had some type of trauma that probably had occurred in our lives, either directly or indirectly. And we came to learn to be able to eliminate that trauma in our lives and prevent that trauma from happening to people in our community. But oftentimes, when people come from all over, they don't have an anchor. They're lacking an anchor. And you got kids that come from all over the United States to Clark County University, to the School of Social Work, and they have various backgrounds, but they don't have an anchor. And I see this every day now. People don't have anchors. They don't know about church or God or have a higher power. One thing about Miss King was she had an anchor. I knew this when I came to a homecoming, and I heard all the people in the family who were preachers. I heard the reverence that you have for each other, how she would come to the events, how she would help a nephew or a niece. And I knew that there was a connection within the family. And that connection that you gave her, she gave it to us. And we're so grateful for it. And so, and the thing about anchors, and I preach a little bit, I curse a little bit too. But I preach a little bit, okay? Now y'all laughing, but you know, Peter, who preached the first sermon, also cut the man ear. Now you think he said, I'm gonna slice your ear off, sir, here you go, thank you. Now he cursed, I'm sure he has a word when he sliced that ear. So, and then I also have Tourette's a little bit too, so sometimes words just come out. But at any rate, if you look at Acts 27, and we're gonna go to Acts 27 and 29, it says, and I'm gonna just one verse, but you have to get the context of it, so you can go back and read yourself. It says, fearing that we might run aground somewhere on the rocks, they cast 4 anchors from the stern and wished for daybreak. So I say that to say this, you know, kids come here. Atlanta provides a lot of challenges. There are a lot of things to get into. And you can get into some things that create very big storms in your life, especially if you don't have an anchor. But you could go to Miss King, and she could provide you with an anchor. So in this passage, they actually drop 4 anchors, okay? And so when you think about the anchor, I want you to think about the anchor has the 2. Many of them have at least 2 prongs, okay? So on these prongs you have on this anchor. And so Miss King had these prongs, and they were care and consideration, commitment and work, influence and integrity. See, it's a lot of people that's got influence, but they don't have integrity. So they have to do things in the dark. You know what I'm saying? Miss King could always do what she had to do in the light because she had that level of integrity. And then there's faith and love. So she provided students with those anchors. And you could come to her and you can have these things. And when you went to Miss King, she would, you know, keep you from being smashed against the rocks if you listen to her. She was an anchor that would not only stabilize you, but provide you with direction. So she's gonna give you some stability and give you some direction, but if the directions were not enough, she will provide you with guidance. See, some people tell you what to do, but Ms. King, if you need it, she'll come out her office and show you what to do. Guidance, that's guidance. There's a big difference between giving you some direction and some guidance. And then she was also anchored with the word of counsel and the word of comfort. Someone you can always go to. It's so important to have a person like Ms. King in your office. She was a historian. She knew all that had occurred at the university. She could tell you the history. She knew how things were supposed to run. You know you can have a book and it has a back, right? So she was the back to the book. She's the back to the book. The pages got to come together. So she was that spine when you pulled it all together. And we're so grateful to have had her. And we thank you. We thank you. We thank you for providing her to us as our anchor. She has anchored so many lives. She's helped so many students graduate and go on to go out here and become saved in the world because she was our savior. Thank you very much.
All right.
Just a quick reminder to our presenters, participants, 3 minutes, please. You were good. You were good after that.
Because I don't want to mess it up for others. I am not a preacher, so mine will not be longer than 3 minutes. I will try to hold it together while I'm up here. Claudette was the heart and the soul of the school. When you were talking about the history and what she knew, I remember, as some of you do, that when we had the fire at the School of Social Work, and I just remember hearing that when Claudette went over there, she fainted because she knew what we lost. And all of us were sad, but she really deeply knew what was at stake and what was lost. And so for me, I was sorry about the school, of course, but I felt more for her. I felt more for her. She was kind, very kind. She liked to laugh. I can hear her laughing. She was always excited for students when they finished their degree or a dissertation. And so we were like, she was more excited than we were. Maybe she was just glad to get us out of here. You know. And I will say, I was here as a student and a faculty member, and she looked out for me. I know all of the students would say that she was there for them, but she really looked out for me. And when I did my dissertation, when I defended my dissertation, she helped me set everything up, and she came and she listened. And I don't know if she knew how much that meant to me. So I just wanted to say that if you don't sense it already, I loved her. And I hope she knew this. And I just wanted the family to know I'm one of many that she did this for. And we are also very grateful to her and to you. Thank you.
You know, I've spoken a lot of places over my career. I've never been more nervous in trying to do this today for Dr. Claudette King. I say doctor because she really ought to have an honorary degree. I tried very hard to think about what I was going to say. I've been thinking about it for the last 2 or 3 days, really. Couldn't come up with anything. You're probably going to hear a lot of things said today that are repetitive. Have to be repetitive because Claudette touched everybody in the same way in terms of what she did for them. But I was riding over this morning and the song came on, "The Wind Beneath My Wings." I thought about it. And it kept going over and over, the wind beneath my wings. As you recall, that song recorded once back at Benediction, Whitney Houston. I think even Gerald Levert did. one time. But actually, when you look at the history of the song really started off as a poem that was written by the songwriter. I think his name was, I was gonna write this down, I didn't want to remember, forget that. The song was written, it was a poem that was written by songwriter Jeff Silver. He wrote the poem for his wife. Then later on, Larry Henley, wrote the song, and then Jeff Silver later on picked up that verse and wrote the song. But then when I thought about it, well, what does that really mean? Win beneath my wings. Well, in actuality, it's a metaphor. Accomplished them in being able to rise the types of altitudes and heights that they needed to go. The joy that Ben is talking about, the thing that Karen just mentioned. And that actually is who Claudette was. Claudette was the wind beneath all of our winds. She also was that indelible thread in the organizational and cultural fabric of this school. She was the torchbearer. She was the history maker. She held it all together. She was important in many respects as even some of the founders in terms of Jesse O. Thomas and everybody else. She had that kind of commitment to not only the individual, she was the best social worker I ever met. All you had to do was watch Claudette, and then you know what you were to do when you got out of here. She was the bridge really between the National Urban League through supporting Richard Lau and Clarence Coleman. She knew the history of this school in terms of the developmental movement of the National Urban League. And that's why the Lyndon Wades and the T. Willard Fairs and all of the National Urban League CEOs who came through this school. Oh, I forgot, even Clint Dykes came through this school. So now she's been referred to as an administrative assistant. She's been referred to as a secretary, but Claudette was the torchbearer. That's who she was. And this school and the culture of this school would never be the same without mentioning Claudette Rivers King, because she owns that. And the thing that I always liked about Claudette was that it never was about Claudette. She never wanted any credit, recognition, or anything else. But she was as proud as any mother or father sitting out there about their children finishing this university. And even when you moved on with your career, I know when I was appointed the head of the Atlanta Urban League, Claudette was one of the first ones that called me and said, okay, Di, you got it. So you know what I told you. So now let's move forward with it. It's yours now. You do what you know you need to do. And I tried to do that. I'll give you one other example and then I'm going to sit down. I remember when I registered, the day of registration over here for the master's program, after we had gone through the process, I was sitting on the steps out there waiting to be picked up. And a young man sat down beside me and we got to talking and he said that, they messed up in there, now I don't have anywhere to live. I can't get in the dorms, and nobody can fix it for me. And I spoke to someone, and then they told me that they were already aware of it, and they were working on it. Well, as it turns out, this was the same young man that Claudette had already mentioned to me that there was a student that had some problems, and she said, "Di, I know you live here in Atlanta. I want you to, if you run into him, I want you to go out there and I want you to offer him an opportunity to find housing, even if it means, you take him home with you for a few days until we work this out." Well, I didn't say anything to my wife about bringing anybody home. But for some reason, I'd rather face my wife than Claudette the next week. Because I knew she was going to follow up to see what I did. Well, long story short, I did take him home, and we're close to this day. But this young man turned out to be, or was, Dr. Otis Johnson, who some of you may remember was the mayor of the city of Savannah. He was a chief advisor to Mrs. What's her name? Jane Fonda, for her programs and everything else. Well, what that shows you is you never know who you're talking to. Claudette didn't have any idea he was going to be the mayor of Savannah one day. She didn't really care. Her issue was he needed help. And my responsibility was to help him, for her to help him through me. Okay? That's what good social work is all about. We help one another. She was way before Black Lives Matter. People matter to Claudette. And we take anything away from this service, anything, we need to leave here with the commitment that Claudette had to this institution and to one another as Black people. Because that's what it was all about. She was an education in and of herself. She would never be duplicated, no matter what. Never. And none of us would ever be like Claudette. All we can do is to be thankful that she passed our way and try to carry on some of the principles and the core values that she had, because that is what it's all about. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our former students. At this time, we will have remarks, reflections from former colleague, Professor Naomi T. Ward, class of 1958 from Atlanta School of Social Work, who retired as Professor Emeritus from the Whitney M. Young Jr. School of Social Work. Professor Ward.
It takes a little time to Dr. Spriggs, other persons on the dais, to all attending, and especially to the King Rivers family. I am Naomi Ward, was faculty at the university for 39 years, 17 years at Atlanta University School of Social Work, and 12 years for the Whitney M. Young Junior School of Social Work that inherited the name from Atlanta University School of Social Work. I knew, well, Claudette was here when I came, but during those 39 years, I want to share with you some of my reflections of her. Most faculty refer to Claudette Rivers King as Claudette, C. Rivers, C. King, and one or two called her Miss King. But the majority had the C in it. Because of that, my reflections would be on the alphabets of Claudette. C, calm, courteous, courageous, committed, and always communicating with faculty, administration, students, and even the administration of the university. She was loyal and loving. She even knew children of faculty, and I think sometimes students would even send messages to them or say, ask us how they were doing. As late as last year, I was in contact with Claudette after she retired. She was asking me about my grandchildren who were babies back earlier at the university. Along with being loyal and loving, she was attentive and an asset to all of us. You, unwavering with unconditional loyalty to the school and the university. D, dependable, completing any task that she undertook. She truly was E, exceptional. She was T, tactful, tactful. I just want to share, Margaret, give me a minute or two. I just want to share an example of her tactfulness. After a hooding ceremony, I think it was the first one over in front of Quaz Washington Hall, three of us, Dr. Craig Beverly, Randy Bailey, Dr. Bailey and I were complimenting her on a great job that she had done in organizing the hooding ceremony. Claudette, calm, quiet, courteous, replied, "Thank you." Then she said, which I will always remember, "I'm support staff." Claudette always referred to her as support staff. "I'm support staff. I'll make you look good. You, the faculty, should make the students look good. So when they leave, they will be alumni looking good. And that makes the school look good." Now we just looked at her and then she said, "Thank you. her tactfulness. Now let me go and see if this reception is right for the hooting, after the hooting. And she just walked on away and left the three of us there just standing, just kind of looking at her. But that was Claudette being tactful. She was trustworthy. That's T, trustworthy. Also she was T, tactful, T, trustworthy, and E, extraordinary. She was an extraordinary person. Now I'm going to add to Claudette an aura and a K. Aura, Claudette was very religious. Aura for rivers. She was very religious. And then K, she was very kind. These characteristics, in my opinion, represent who Claudette really was. I believe that with these characteristics, and Reverend Easley, I'm not a minister, I believe that God said, Gabriel, blow your trumpet. And I believe perhaps God said, ready, take wings. And that Claudette flew away, walking around heaven all day. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ward. I'm going to make a slight change in the program because our musician has to leave early. So I'm going to ask Mr. Mac Miller, if he would please come forward at this time to do his selection. Thank you.
Just would like to say, as a student, and get my little say in, and then I'm going to be out. As a student, Mrs. Claudette Rivers King, I called her whole name. She was the buffer. She was the woman with the kind word, especially when I would come out of meetings with Professor Naomi Ward and Professor Hattie Mitchell. There were days I didn't know whether I was going to graduate or whether I was going to have to take it to go through the summer classes. But Claudette River King was the calming voice when my nerves would be all over the place. And in this very auditorium at the hooding ceremony, when I got up to the stage and Professor Ward was right here and Claudette Rivers King was out there, it came to my time to cross the stage, and Professor Ward looked at me and I said, oh, she's going to make me sit down. She gave me the hoodie ceremony. I looked back at Mrs. Claudette Rivers King. She gave me the thumbs up. That means I knew I was graduating. Amen. But I'm thankful. My career as a social worker, as a licensed social worker, has been great. And it's all because of the love and the caring that took place here at the Whitney M. Young School of Social Work. Thank you. You can put your hands together. This is the home. ask you where I'm going, where I am going, oh, soon. Oh, I'm going up yonder. I'm going up yonder. I'm going up yonder to be with my Lord. Oh, I'm going up yonder. I'm going up yonder. I'm going up yonder to be with my Lord. I can take no pain. The heartaches they bring. The comfort in knowing to be with me, God. As God give me grace, said I run this old race until I see my Savior face to face. Oh, I'm going up yonder. I'm going up yonder. I'm going up yonder to be with my Lord. Oh, I'm going up yonder. I'm going up yonder. I'm going up yonder to be with my Lord. Oh, I'm going up yonder. I'm going up yonder. I'm going up yonder to be with my Lord. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. McMiller. I'm gonna make another quick detour. Dr. Juliet Stovall asked to just come up and give quick message, reflections to the family, and I'm going to allow her to do so. Dr. Stovall? What year?
I graduated, let's see, I did 82, okay. Hi, I'm Juliet Stovall, and I just want to bring some reflections. Claudette was, not only was I a student, Claudette was my friend, okay? And I thought I got over it. I didn't think I was going to get emotional, but I think I am. So bear with me, and I'm going to try not to take that 3 minutes, okay? I met Claudette, let's see, you told me, tell me my class. I was here from 82 to 84 for the master's degree. And I came back in 2000 and some odd number for the PhD. And in the meantime, I got a master's in ed leadership. But all of that was because of Claudette, and that's no lie. I met her nephew when I was a student at Spelman. And through him, I met her, which was the greater relationship, sorry. And it lasted 48 years. And I want to say to the family, Claudette is not here, but you guys are. And I know where it came from. Because from the first day I met you, you guys embraced me as family and never, ever let me go. And so when we talk about the love, the compassion, the person that Claudette was and that we knew as students, as coworkers, it all came from you. When I met your mother, your grandmother, I was in awe of her because she never said a bad word about anybody. Man, if you said something about somebody that wasn't quite right, she'd flip that thing around and make it positive. Claudette, the epitome of that. And so, for those of you who, knew Claudette, I knew her as a friend, as a close friend, even though when she went to Dalton, y'all stole her bag and I didn't have much contact with her, but we were still cool. And Claudette exemplified those values of the social worker, our core values. I got to look them because I'm nervous. Service and social justice. Y'all heard about her service. You heard about the social justice too. She had to get somebody, she helped plenty of students out. Whether you needed direction and what to do and how to organize your program, she told you. She told you who to go talk to you. If there was money around, Claudette would tell you how to access the money. Dignity and worth of the person. Oh, she was a respecter of all persons, no matter what. Claudette could not like you, but she still served you. And you never, ever know it. The importance of human relationships. I didn't know that woman knew half Atlanta. Through the Urban League and everywhere else, she knew everybody. And back in the day when I met her, she typed papers, she worked for the Urban League. She was so connected. Like I said, I was just in awe of her. Integrity. Nobody could question Claudette's integrity. And competence? Come on now. Every new dean that came through the school, Claudette, 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 Claudette. Okay? So we knew who she was, what she was made of, and what you saw was what you got. I was late, and on the ride over here, the gentleman on the little golf cart, I said, "Did you know Miss Rivers King?" He said, "Sure I did." He said, "We was co-workers." He said, "Now she'd tell you off, but when she told you off, you knew you needed to be told off." Okay? And so the other thing that I want to say is this. Family, I will love you forever. Please, nobody, y'all don't kick me to the curb. I'll be around, okay? Promise not to cause any trouble, but I'll be there. The other thing is, I want to say, we all know that Claudette loved this university and the School of Social Work. I don't have many regrets in life, and I'm not going to say I regret it, but it is unfortunate that we did not get her on StoryCorps because she knew it. She knew it, and it would be there forever. But I want to encourage each and every one of you. I make my little contribution. It ain't much, but I send it to the school. I want all of us, and especially everyone that was a student of hers, to contact every student you know to make a contribution to the Whitney M. Young Jr. School of Social Work in the name of Claudette Rivers King. You want to remember her that way so that her legacy will live forever.
Thank you, Dr. Stovall, and the challenge has been made, okay? At this time, we will have remarks from a former dean. Dr. Lau began his tenure at the Atlanta University School of Social Work in 1980. Shortly thereafter, he became the director of the doctoral program until his retirement May 2020, after 40 years of service. Dean Jenny Jones, one of his students from the class of 2001, and who currently serves as the dean, will read comments prepared by Dr. Richard Lau, who served as interim dean on 3 occasions, not 1, but 3. 1994 to 1998, 2003 to 2004, and 2007 to 2008. Dean Jones.
Good morning. Before I begin reading the comments that Dr. Lau made, I just want to apologize to you all. I came in late. I am the caregiver of my 91-year-old mother, and this has been a hard week for her. So I've had to shift a lot of things in order to get where I needed to be. And I share that with you because I know in all of my conversations with Mrs. King and her mom, I know that would be important for you all to know. So I just wanted to share that with you. When I spoke with Dr. Lyle and Dr. Lyle about this program we were having, they shared with me that the words they wanted to give to the family was really their personal thinking of Mrs. King and how she had impacted their lives. So they typed them out and sent them to me, and I'm going to read to you verbatim. I know that words are inadequate at a time like this, but I want you to know how much we adored Mrs. Rivers King as a colleague. As you have heard several times, she was admired by the administration, faculty, staff, and many, many students over the years. Certainly, she loved Atlanta University and Clark Atlanta University, but she dearly loved our Whitney M. Young Jr. School of Social Work. She knew the history of the Whitney M. Young Jr. School of Social Work like the back of her hand. Certainly, she was compassionate about her work. However, her most endearing quality was her love for all humanity. Her smile was infectious. As alluded to previously, she was known for her kindness and true spirit of compassion, but she was also humorous. She could crack a joke to lighten the air when we were really stressed or overly concerned, sometimes over what really might have been a simple matter. She could read my chicken scratch, and if y'all know Dr. Lyle, chicken scratch was exactly what it was. She could read my chicken scratch and turn out a letter, email a document exactly like I had written it, and always in a timely fashion. She was the fastest typist and always completed whatever she was working on with dispatch. Without a doubt, we always knew that she could and would finish our written correspondence with complete fidelity so that we could make it to the post office to meet a grant proposal deadline in DC to guarantee we would be able to obtain a receipt for an on-time grant submission. On a personal note, my wife would regularly compliment Mrs. Rivers King on her very fashionable attire and how she loved to coordinate her outfits with the prettiest silk scarves. You guys know that. And often, when our son was just a young kid, she would entertain him and other professors' children as she would entertain them as if they were her own, while we had late afternoon or evening classes. In fact, I would say entertain because she would engage them in reading, math, science, puzzles, and other academic board work to the extent that they were really receiving private tutorial lessons. Then she would inform us of each child's area of strength, an area in which they could benefit from additional assistance. In closing, it has been an honor and a privilege for all of us to have known Mrs. Rivers King as a colleague. She was genuinely and extremely valuable and an unforgettable member of colleagues' families who demonstrated professionalism and provided support, guidance, advice, and friendship to all of us. May your memories of her be as special to you as they will be for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Jones. At this time, I'd like to share that we have received reflections. As you already know, Ms. Rivers King served as the administrative assistant to the dean of the Whitney M. Young Junior School of Social Work for 49 years. We know that. But be mindful that she actually worked with 9 deans and 3 interim deans. Okay, and each of these deans with whom she worked loved her dearly. Each of the deans, 5 which are still with us, sent their remarks. They were unable to join us today. And so I have their reflections in this folder that I will present to the family to be shared with her mother when you return. The first of those is Dr. Craig Beverly, who served as dean from 1984 to 1986. And we have remarks from Dr. Dorcas Bowles, who served as dean from 1986 to 87, and again in 1998 to 2000, and as interim dean in 2015 to 2016. You heard comments from Dr. Lyle. We also have reflections from Dr. Rufus Lynch, who served as dean from 2004 to 2007, and we have reflections from Dr. Vimala Polari, who served as dean from 2008 to 2015. In addition, we have reflections enclosed from a former coworker who loved her dearly, which some of you may know, Ms. Cynthia Windsor, who also worked with Ms. Rivers King from 2011 to 2018. At this time, we will have reflections from Reverend Timothy McDonald. Reverend McDonald.
We give honor to God, who's the head of all of our lives, to the deans, to the faculty, to the students, especially to this family, the Rivers King family. A good preacher should know when it's already been said. I'm not a good preacher. So many wonderful things have been said about my friend. It's great to be a sibling, family member, colleague, a helper, but to be a friend, that says volumes. They got me down for words of encouragement. And they told me 10 minutes. I promised them I'm not going to take 10 minutes. I'm going to take 9 minutes and 59 seconds. I was 21 years old when they called me to Shiloh Baptist Church in Dalton, Georgia, to be their pastor. Church that only met 2 Sundays. The Rivers family was there. 21. They called me to be their pastor. They didn't know no better. And I wasn't about to tell them. But a bond was established. 1976, 46 years ago. Next month would be exactly 46 years. I remember it well. Reverend Rivers, the father of Claudette, and their mom, who I got to see, the 105-year-old, when I went to do the eulogy just a few weeks ago. Because we still have a bond. And we'll have that bond until we die. Y'all know Claudette. I know Dee Dee. She's everything all of you have said and then some. But she was Dee Dee. John 10:10 says that you shall have life and you will have it more abundantly. Claudette Rivers King lived her more. Too many of us are just existing. We just kind of go from day to day. We're not living, we're existing. Existing for weeks, months, even years. Claudette lived her life. Claudette had fun. Y'all talking about joking and all, but Claudette, when she was over here at CAU, she knew how to enjoy, friends know, life. I believe that those words are so important now, particularly in light of this pandemic. You should have life, and you should have it more abundantly. When you look at these siblings, when you look at this Rivers family, when you look at the King family, Claudette set the example of what it means to live an abundant life. How do you do that? 3 simple ways, 3 simple things. Be yourself. I remember hearing this when I was very, very young, a teenager. Be yourself. Everybody else is already taken. So you might as well be yourself. Claudette was herself. No matter where she was among the presidents and deans or students, she was Claudette. She was herself, loving, gentle, kind, intelligent, grateful, all those qualities that we have labeled her with. She was that and then some. Be yourself. And she told all the students, you got to be yourself. Don't try to be nobody else. Don't try to be like nobody else. Just be yourself. Be who God created you to be. Be yourself. But you got to go a little bit further. If you're going to hang around Claudette, be your best self. Don't come here shucking and jiving. Don't come here half-stepping. Get the margins right. Get the presentation right. Look right. Dress right. Stand up, erect. Speak out. Let them know you're in the room. Be your best self. Don't let anybody else label you, define you. Be yourself, but be your best self. She said that all the time. I met him in 1976, but in 1984, I got a call. Said, Reverend McDonald, I want you to marry me. That's what I said. Uh-oh. And Mark, no, I tried to tell him, that's the nephew, I said, now I'm going to be that distinguished pastor. I'm going to be through in a few minutes. My 9 minutes, 59 seconds. I said, well, Claudette, I know you up in age, and all of us getting on up there. She said, but she said, I done found the man I want to marry. I said, well, that's good. But Claudette, Dee, she said, oh, when you call me Dee, I know something up. I said, I don't marry people unless I do premarital counseling. Claudette said, look, Reverend McDonald, I ain't trying to marry you. You already married. All you need to know is I love him, he loved me, we want to be together, and we want you to marry us. You got that? I said, yes, ma'am, I got that. And guess what I did? I married them too. And they spent almost 30 wonderful years together. She had a way of getting on you, and it felt good. She had a way of correcting you, and it felt good. There was something about herself and her best self. And here's the final one. You should have life, and you should have it more abundantly. John 10:10. Be your best self for others. Everywhere Claudette went, and I've heard it said here several times, it was always about others. It comes from her father, comes from her mother, comes from her family, and it's still there in the Rivers family. That's them right there. I knew. When I saw them, I just lit up. Because now, and for some time, I considered myself a part of the family, a part of the other. Every student was important to Claudette Rivers King. Every student. No matter your background, no matter who you knew, where you come from, everybody to Claudette Rivers King, every student was important. Every faculty member was important. She talked about you all the time. Every dean was important. And she treated everybody the same as a child of God. What I loved about her, when we did her eulogy in Dalton, was hearing the reflections and knowing that with her refined and dignified and classy self. You ever heard her try to sing? I said try. She had her own unique style, Clint. She had her own notes that hadn't even been invented for the piano yet. And she was singing with such joy and enthusiasm, like nobody else in the whole room. In her falsetto, hitting notes that Leontine Price had never hit before. Be yourself. Be your best self. Her mantra. And be your best self always for others. Because at the end of the day, what really matters is not what you did for yourself. But Claudette will remind all of us it's what we do for others. Every city and town she went in, when they saw her, before they knew the dean or anybody else, they holler out her name because she lived every day for others.
Thank you, Reverend McDonald. Be your best self. At this time, we will ask Ms. Galen Gatewood Joshua, the University History, Traditions, and Ceremonial Director, to come forward to read a proclamation from Clark Atlanta University.
It's an honor to bring greetings on behalf of the university. This is the resolution of remembrance for Claudette Rivers King. Whereas Claudette Rivers King served Atlanta University and Clark Atlanta University for a combination of 49 years from 1967 to 2016. Whereas Claudette Rivers King, vibrant personality, was infectious. She always lent a helping hand to those in need. She was a woman of impeccable character. Whereas she witnessed the historical consolidation of Atlanta University and the name change to Clark Atlanta University, and the name change of the School of Social Work to the Whitney M. Young Jr. School of Social Work. Whereas she was revered by the students, faculty, and staff who she served. In 1998, the graduating class at that time established the Claudette Rivers King Choice Award. Therefore, be it resolved that the president and board of trustees, faculty and staff, Students and alumni will miss her very much and offer the condolences to the Rivers and King family. Be it further resolved that a copy of the resolution will be presented to the family, preserved in the School of Social Work and the archives of the university. Offered this day, the 30th day of April in 2000 year of 22 of our Lord, signed by President George T. French Jr. and the Clark Atlanta University family. Amen.
Thank you again, Ms. Gatewood Joshua. At this time, we will have remarks from the Rivers King family. Mr. Tom Pinson, please come forward.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see everybody. And first of all, I just want to thank the Whitney M. Young School of Social Work and their staff for this day and this opportunity. You guys have been so supportive of my aunt all these years. Back in 1973, when I first came to Atlanta, one of the things that drew me to Atlanta was because she was here. And I knew that she, like what Reverend McDonald spoke about earlier, that there were some good times with her. We always had good times when we came to Dee Dee's house versus our own house. You guys will get that later. But I really wasn't prepared to make remarks, but I did speak to my cousin Crystal. I'm the oldest nephew in the family. Before I do that, I want to acknowledge her brothers and her sisters that are in the audience. We'll get you guys to stand. Curtis, Teresa, and Robert Rivers. They're three of the surviving siblings. But I did speak with my cousin, Crystal, and asked her to have a few remarks ready. She's a teacher up in Nashville, and she always has something good, and she can do it. I think she got that from Dee Dee. She has her margins together. So I'm gonna let Crystal say some remarks. Right?
All right, so thank you for welcoming our family here today for this beautiful and meaningful celebration for my Aunt Claudette. Claudette, Claudie, or Dee Dee thought of Clark Atlanta University as home and each of you as family. She loved this place and she loved each of you just as she loved me and the other members of my family. I was a student at Spelman in the late 1980s, and I remember fondly coming to see Aunt Dee Dee in her office on the Atlanta University campus every 2 weeks for the allowance that she would give me. The allowance may have been why I came, but the love is why I always seem to stay. Sometimes we'd sit and have long conversations. Sometimes we'd have lunch together. Sometimes she'd put me to work making copies or filing papers. She'd always walk me through the building, proudly introducing me to everyone. Spelman is and always will be my heart, but AU and the School of Social Work soon found its way into my heart as well. Aunt Dee Dee made sure that our family knew she loved us, but she also loved to share much about the passion she had for her work here at CAU. Her long tenure here at the university suggested that she never gave up. Deans would come and go, but Claudette stayed the course. It was important that the professionals and the students she worked with kept excellence in their mind as they went about their work. Claudette knew how to laugh and have a good time. While the work was important, enjoying it was important to her as well. Claudette walked with grace,
Even when times were tough, maybe especially when times were tough, Claudette kept her head up and stayed focused on the objective that was in front of her. She never wavered, and her belief in God never wavered. These are characteristics that Claudette both learned from and taught to her family members. She learned to persevere and to put challenges in God's hands from my grandparents, her parents, Curtis Sr. and Eva Lou. She shared perseverance and trust in God through her work and with her colleagues. She learned excellence and the importance of education from my daddy, her brother, Curtis Jr., and shared it with the students. She expected and only accepted the best from the students in the School of Social Work and also from her nieces and nephews at home. She learned grace and sophistication from my aunts, her sisters, Mary Frances and Teresa. She brought it to work every day, dressed to the nines and walking with purpose, yet with grace. She learned joy and to enjoy life from my uncles, her brothers, Robert James, Ray, and David. She shared that joy and love of life with all of us here today. But she also got stronger and better in all those areas from the experience that she had from working at CAU and from growing to call you family. I was fortunate enough to not only get the benefit of those allowances, which meant more than she'll ever know and got me through on many occasions, but I also was able to learn life lessons. Along with my family, Dee Dee taught us lessons of grace, joy, excellence, and perseverance that she brought to and gained from Clark Atlanta University. My family and I thank you for nurturing and loving on our precious and beloved Claudette. We thank you for all that you've meant to our lives and for being a family for our sweet angel. Thank you again for having us here today. Long live the memories of Dee Dee in our hearts. May the memories flow all across the campus of Clark Atlanta University, specifically Whitney M. Young Junior School of Social Work. Thank you.
No. She asked me if I was going to sing a song. No, I got that from my grandfather and from Dee Dee. We always have a song ready, but Mr. McMiller, he blessed our souls today with his singing, so I don't think we have to have any more singing. But the one thing that I do remember, and I want to share this with about Claudette, is that she was hard on her students, and as Dr. Ward said, the staff also, but she was even harder on us as a family, especially the grandkids, and I was a grandkid, and the nephews. She always wanted us to be the best, to excel, to do good, to dress nice, hold your head up, speak with diction, say those words correctly. We used to call her Claudie. She says, no, that's not my name. My name is Claudette. Even at a young age. So we had to start calling her Claudette. But the one thing that I can always remember about my Aunt Claudette is that whenever she was at any function, you knew she was there. And it was this one thing that she did, and we all knew, whoa, Aunt Claudette is in the room. And it was, coo-coo-coo-coo-coo! Thank you. And I think she got that from Clark Atlanta.
Thank you for those remarks from the family. At this time, I'd like to share, it was mentioned in the proclamation regarding an award that was established. The MSW graduating class of 1998 initiated and implemented the Claudette Rivers King Student Choice Award for a faculty or staff person that went above and beyond assisting students through the graduate program. The first recipient of this award was Professor Hattie Mitchell, who was also beloved faculty of the school. The second recipient is with us today, Dr. Sarita Davis, and I'm asking her to come forth because she received the award twice. First in 1999, and then again in 2005. Dr. Davis.
Greetings. It's so wonderful to be here. The last time I was here, I can't remember. It's been a while. I have to tell you, I heard about Claudette Rivers King before I ever met her. I was working at CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and a friend of mine attended a hooding ceremony here in School of Social Work. And she told me about this wonderful woman who was so beloved by the students and faculty that they established an award in her honor. And it was fortuitous that I started working here. And the first year that I worked here and was participating in the hooding ceremony, I started not to come. Hooding ceremonies are very emotional and family and friends, and my mom had died, and I found it very hard to be in that kind of setting. So I wasn't going to come. But one of the other faculty members, Ann Fields Ford, convinced me to come. I didn't have a robe or anything. She walked me over to the bookstore, got me a robe, and I'm sitting where Dr. Spriggs was here on the stage. And one of the students, Erica Walker Cash, was standing where I am right now. And she starts talking about this award. I didn't know anything about it. And she's looking over at me. I'm like, why is she looking at me? And she started naming all of the things that I had done working with my thesis students. And I was very shocked. And all of it came back to me when my friend Sandy had said, who had been here the year before when the award was established. And I was so honored to be thought of in that way. And I'm still honored to this day. I've received the award twice. And having the opportunity to observe Claudette Rivers King, to see how faithful she was, to see how supportive she was. She went out of her way for students and faculty. So I'm honored to be associated with her in that way. I never had the chance to go to an HBCU. I always wanted to. I'm from California. We don't have HBCUs there. But my mother used to speak so highly of HBCUs because when she was growing up, we didn't have anything else. It was our opportunity. And my mother made me long for the experience to attend an HBCU. So while I never attended an HBCU, working here as a professor gave me a glimpse into what this experience was like. And what I always thought people would do, going out of their way, going above and beyond. Claudette Rivers King exemplified that. She made me feel at home. As a faculty member who came from somewhere else, didn't know a lot of people here. So I consider myself one of the students. She helped me get through, because as you know, HBCUs can be challenging sometimes. But she made me feel at home. So I thank you to her family for sharing her with us. And thank you, Dr. Spriggs, for inviting me.
Come back. Okay. It's ironic that Mrs. Rivers King actually was the last recipient of this award, which was in 2005, 2006. And, you know, sometimes things happen over the years, and we had not given the award for several years. 2006 was the last year it was awarded. But upon consultation with Dean Jones, the Claudette Rivers King Award will be reinstated effective academic year 2022-23 going forward. And we are very pleased to have that as a part of our traditions going forth. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Davis. At this time, we will have closing remarks, excuse me, closing remarks, Dean Jenny Jones.
You guys, they've said everything that I wanted to say about Mrs. King. And I echo all of the sentiments that's been expressed by her. And I guess there are two things that I will say. One has been said, but it was this, the other one will be new. Ms. King and those theses and dissertation. I remember when I was completing my dissertation, a friend and colleague of mine who we saw Mrs. King sitting in the conference room, and she have all these papers laid out and about 10 pencils and all kind of stuff. And so we went in there and I said, "What are you doing?" She says, "Oh, I'm working on these dissertations." And she looked up, but she kept writing. I said, "Is this what you have to do to get a dissertation done?" She says, "Yes." I said, "I'm not doing that." She just kept writing and said, "Well, yours won't go over." And so, so Makiba and I got out of there and we said, we're gonna have to do what she tells us to do in order to get out of here. But I want to say that when I was offered the job as dean and accepted to come here, there were two people that I was extremely excited about being able to work with in my role as dean. One of them, of course, was Mrs. King, because I knew Mrs. King knew everything. And she would not let me step in any landmines. She would help me, pull me back. And I was so looking forward to that. And the other person, of course, is Dr. Lyle, who's right over here, my dissertation chair. And so when I got here, I guess about 2 days after I got here, I found out Mrs. King was retiring. And I was like, "How can you do this to me?" "Oh, you're going to be fine." I said, "No, I took this job because I knew you were going to be here." And she continued to say, "Oh, you'll be fine, you'll be fine." And I said to her, "Well, I guess I'll just have to depend on Dr. Lau." She said, "Oh, yeah, Dr. Lau will guide you through. He'll guide you through." And she left. And I was really heartbroken because, again, I was so looking forward to her. When you have the vast knowledge that Mrs. King had about an institution, how could you not want her to be around you, to guide you? And I knew there were other people I could call on, some of them in this audience. I knew I could reach out to them. But I knew that she would not let me misstep. She would always be there to redirect me so that I wouldn't step in a hole. And as I said, the other person is here today, Dr. Lyle, my Dr. Lyle, whom I love so very much, who served in that role. I don't even think he knew that. It was something about your presence, Dr. Lyle, that made me feel so good. I didn't have to go and ask things. It was just, Dr. Lyle's a very quiet man. He doesn't say a lot. And a lot of times he would come through that side door and I wouldn't know he was back there until I walked back there and saw him. But it was a sense of relief. He's here. I'm in good hands. So I say to the family, thank you for sharing her with us for many, 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 many years. 49 years is a very long time. And I too, like Sarita Davis, when I came here as a student, I had never attended an HBCU. My father is a graduate of Bethune-Cookman, so I knew about HBCUs, but I didn't have that experience myself. And then I came here after having worked for many years in the field. It was like this was going to be a second career for me. Come back to school, get my PhD, teaching in the academy. And so I had no idea what all of this would be like. But through the guidance of Claudette Rivers King, some of the other great faculty people that were here to support me, the dean at the time, I was able to get through. And these people at this school, some of them are here, like I said today, Richard Lyle, Bernice Liddy Hamilton, Karen Starks, Naomi Ward. These people helped to form me and guide me, many of them just through observation, to be able to move on and be where I am today. So again, thank you. We appreciate you. Those faculty and former faculty and alums that are here, would you please stand? Just let us see who you are. And Dr. Shaw just walked in, yes. So as you can see, the love that people had for your family member. And I just want to say again, thank you. I want to say thank you to Reverend McDonald. Pastor Easley had to leave early. And this is the best way I knew how that we could honor and celebrate her. So thank you again.
There is a reception that will be held immediately following this event. It's in the quad in front of Thayer Hall. So as you exit the auditorium, we are asking you to walk around, go out this door, make a left, and go around the path, and you'll see the water fountain. That's where we will gather. Thank you. This time we will have our benediction by our beloved Reverend Dr. Miles.
Thank you so much, Dr. Count Spriggs. To everyone who knew and loved Mrs. Claudette Rivers King, especially to the family, it is always a joy when you can hear the thread of God at work in the telling of one's life. I was not here while Mrs. Rivers King was here. I joined the CAU family in 2018. But I am learning a lot today, and as someone called her, she was an educator. The words that were spoken about what happened when the School of Social Work had a fire, and her reaction to that fire struck me. And so here are our closing words. I believe that what she was reacting to was the thought of the memory and the history being lost. Our responsibility is to continue to tell her story so that every bit of who she was enables her to continue to be in our hearts and in our minds. Amen, somebody, because she was a force clearly to be reckoned with. And so as we go forward, I'm going to invite you in this moment just to give God a hand clap of praise for who she was. We cannot leave here without celebrating her amazingness in this moment. But we don't leave here simply as that. It has been requested that each one of us place a rose petal from that bowl into that vase in memory and in honor of her greatness. So I challenge you as you go forward in love and power and peace to carry her memory forward with you, that every bit of who she was continues to be. Because in God's economy, nothing is ever lost. World without end. Brothers and sisters, amen. Amen.
As we leave, please stop by and pick up a petal, drop it in the vase.